Breaking news, we have words from the trenches that our author has been sucked into a new novella idea. Let's go over to our reporter on the scene. Thanks, Lan, and here I am with the author. We're going to talk about what happened, why, after she has just finished the first round of edits, she is now working on something new instead of finishing and polishing her manuscript. Leanne, what can you tell me about this? Yeah, thanks. It's been like a really interesting type experience to, okay, I confess, yes, I finished the edits, and yes, this shiny new idea popped in. It's not really a shiny new idea though, it's actually a 20-year-old idea. I know because I looked at the date stamp on the file. When I was doing the first rounds of edits in this manuscript, I found this little object that kept popping up again and again. And back when I was initially planning to write book 4, I had this idea that I would write a novella before that with the object. And then I didn't. And yet the object still, stayed in the picture being mentioned. So I'm like, well, what can we do about this? Well, I had this novel that I wrote back in 2000, and that long ago, and I thought, well, why don't we make it a novella? It was a stretch to make it a novel. I remember when I'm writing, okay, I'm only up to chapter 10 and we're almost done here, what do we do? It was really how I learned how to layer in plot and motivation and make it believable and realistic. And do I think I pulled it off? No, not exactly. However, it'd be much easier to fine-tune those earlier chapters and turn it into a novella. And that will explain why this certain object appears in the serial, book 4. And how does that make you feel? I'm actually really excited. I'm as challenged now as I was then in coming up with the motivations for both the hero and the heroine. So I really think that if I can get that sorted out, I can wrap it up pretty nicely and neatly and get back on schedule to doing the edits for round 2. So that novel, what are the plans? Oh yeah. I'm planning to finish the manuscript. It's just that it needs to rest right now, so I can come back and read it with fresh eyes. And what better way to let it rest than work on a different project? So that's what I'm doing. That's all we have from here in the author trenches. Back to you, Lan. Hi. Wasn't that fun? My name's Leanne. My name's Leanne Shawler. I'm an artist and a writer, and normally I'm here documenting writing the last book of the Mordrea Chronicles, except we're doing this novella, which is in between book 3 and book 4, just for placement purposes. And so I'm writing a fantasy romance alternate history with shape-shifting sea dragons and searches for Arthurian treasures to save the world from ecological collapse. That's the pitch. Let's just go talk about this new anomaly to my writing plans already. It's still January for the year. Yeah, so I'm working on a novella. And as I mentioned in my interview, it is an old story, an old novel manuscript that didn't get published. It's one of the ones I learned how to write on. I think it was the second one I wrote. It's one of the ones I learned how to write, novels on, and repeatedly. And so, as I said, there's this object. Anyway, so I have everything plotted out. I know what I want to use from the original manuscript. I think it's the first 5 or 6 chapters, and we're going to cut those chapters down because there's stuff I was layering in for external conflict purposes. There wasn't, however, looking back, a whole lot of internal conflict. I have the heroine's internal conflict figured out, like her baggage, in other words, but I haven't figured out the heroes. The basic plot. I'm going to tell you the basic plot because, hey, you're going to hear about that in the description. Celine is a young lady who unusually, but not completely impossibly, for the UK, back in the day, has this moonstone, and it's been handed down through the generations, this moonstone pendant through the generations, and each eldest daughter in each generation gives it to her intended. And her intended is usually a Dragomore. That's the new part. The old part was something else. And with that comes her hand in marriage and the land and the house, etc. The estate. And it's always held in the woman's name by Elizabethan patent, bless Queen Bess's heart. So that was the story. However, they didn't always marry that Dragomore for whatever reason. Dragomore, for whatever reason, her mother married a human, and the human after the mother passed away has gambled away this moonstone, along with Celine's hand in marriage and the estate and everything else, except it's supposed to go to a Dragomore. Father gambles it away to this ne'er-do-well, rake, rogue type character. Second son has served on the peninsula during the Peninsular Wars, and that's all I've got. In the original manuscript, he was a diplomatic Secret Service type guy working for Britain, and the whole point was this moonstone was supposed to go back to, are you ready, Madagascar, to give to the king, the prince there, to like firm up colonial ties. I know. But also to repatriate this moonstone back to its home country. None of that is happening. We're going to be staying firmly within the shores of the UK. But I need a reason for why he's not going to give that moonstone back to her. He's a second son, so he does need land and estates, money. He has had some luck in... What has he had some luck in? He's had some luck, obviously, in gambling, and has just somehow ended up with this moonstone and the land, etc. Maybe a best friend told him about the story that, these women pass it on. But in any case, because her father's been a gambler, the moonstone's the last thing he's let go of. So there's nothing left. The land is indebted. I don't know how families come back from that. And during the Regency period, you probably have to sell everything off, sell off the title. But anyway, so that seems like a big headache. Like, why would you not just go, oh, yeah, no, I don't want this moonstone after all. Here, have it back. I haven't figured out why he would not do that. Because if he wants things easy, hanging on to the moonstone is not easy. But once I figured that out, then I can wrap the story. It can be finished. And all it needs, you ready, is an edit. I just shrink down 6 chapters to maybe like half the size and add in little bits to, frame it with our Dragomore at the beginning, at the end, so that Leah can get this moonstone to Idethea. But this hero needs sorting out. Anyway, that's what I'm stuck on, and that's why I did that ridiculous interview, because I'm stuck. I need to figure this out. Help me. So I'm going to do while I'm in the studio, I'm cutting bits of printables for Ondine's diary, and I'm just going to let my brain go and think about it. I don't know. If I figure it out, I'll come back and tell you. But in the meantime, I just want to let you know that I've gone off in pursuit of a shiny old idea. That's just how that cookie crumbled. I plan to return to manuscript, as I said in the interview. It needs to sit. I'm going to let it sit for at least a week, a week and a half. So today is Friday, so all of next week it will be, I finished it on Wednesday, so all of next week we won't be working on the manuscript at all. We'll be working on possibly secondary sources and this novella, if I can just figure out the hero's deal. I'm beginning to wish I hadn't given away all my writing craft books, because then I could go look at the archetype book. The archetype book was really helpful. And figure out his wounds. If I can figure that out, I can figure out how Celine can like complete him, and he can complete her. But at the minute, he is definitely not her type. I need to wash my hair, but I think it's okay. So that this morning I have leapt on to Heart Breathing's writing retreat, because I thought, what better way to see if this novella has legs than by banging it out. So I am copying and pasting mostly, and then writing new material in between, because there's a lot of, it was novel length. So it has a novel length conflict that can't be resolved overnight. And now we're pretty much going to resolve it within the week, I think. So yes, I finally got a handle on the hero last night. I went back and got a book. I'm going to put it in the description below. It's by Tami Cowden, somebody else, and the Hero and Heroine Archetypes. I had this book back in the day, and I'm 99.9% sure it did not make it back in the writing box. I had one plastic box of like manuscripts and folders like the Sword for Wellington. And I thought if I ever got back to writing, those were the ones I'd want to pick up and work on. And yeah, I should actually see if there's a Moonstone folder down there, because I've been trying to figure out how I set the character up. And looking at this book, I knew I used this book when I was developing the characters, because it was back in the day when I did character development before I started writing, after the inciting idea, of course. And so, yeah, we're on a little bit of a 5-minute writing break now, so I don't think I have time to go down and rummage in the garage and pull the box out. But maybe after this next 2-hour block, that will be the goal. Or maybe I should do it now before the fog burns off. Okay, so I'll update you later, but we're cracking along quite well. And my husband is reading in the front room, so I'm out here in the back to give you an update. It is, I don't know, 9-ish. I have been at this since 7. It's probably closer to 10, actually. Whatever the time is, I put it in here. So I've been at this since 7 a.m. and I'm making a great deal of good progress. Really enjoying it, actually. Just concentrated time in the morning. So that's a learning to be putting away. We're not quite at the point where I'm going to get stuck, but we're getting close to it. And there is some stuff in here that I'm like, Leanne, 2000 you did so much research on this book, and you've shown all of it. Do we really need to show all of it? So I'm leaving it in for now, most of it, but I may have to rethink that idea. Just to keep the pace moving, because this book is a lot slower paced than my serials are. So yeah, so I might be like doing some cutting. I'm certainly trimming a lot of words. I had some very clunky ways of writing description, and hadn't really, I think, fully internalized how to do different points of view. So like, she could see that he saw, like, or she could see that he looked her way, and well, now it's just he looked her way. I mean, why are all those extra words there? And these are from the polished chapters that I submitted to contests. It's probably a reason why I didn't get anywhere with it. But again, this is the second book I learned how to write a Regency romances on, so I should not be surprised. And now there's train noise. I'm hoping you can't hear this person chatting in the stream in the background. Hopefully not. My other option is lawnmower noise. So just a quick update. I seem to have passed the 3 polished chapters of this manuscript, and now it's getting a little bit hinky, as they say. So I need to do a little more editing than I had planned to do, but also doing a ton of cutting. So, oh, now there's more sounds in the background. So I need to do a ton of cutting as well. So we'll see how this goes. This is the first pass, and then we'll have a read and see how it's working. Yes, I just washed my hair. Deal. Done with the retreat for the day. I don't know how people sit through the whole day. It was 3 2-hour sessions, which is 6 hours. And that was more than plenty. And I missed half the retreat. So I suspect people actually dip in and out depending on their time zones and just get something done. I think that's how it works. But I did 6 hours. At the end of today, I have about 15,000 words. Now, don't be shocked. It's an old manuscript I've been copying and pasting and editing. So there is probably about 1,000 new words and all of that. And the rest is copy-paste edited. I stopped off in the middle of a scene. So I'm going to finish that up tomorrow morning. And then I have the end scene and then like a scene in the middle that's from another perspective. And then it's ready for me to read through and even edit some more. For example, all that research that I love to do about a valet's work. And I'm like, I worked really hard for this. Well, no. If it's going to stop the story from flowing, then no. We'll summarize it a bit more. I have some cute reactions in there, though. I want to keep those because that's part of character development. So yes, I'm quite happy with that. I don't know if I will log in tomorrow and do the sprints with them again in the morning because I started at 7 this morning and it's now gone 3 o'clock. So I don't know. I'll think about that a bit. I did no. I'm not quite sure whether the writing sprints were helpful because when they stopped once, I was like in full flow, like, please do not be interrupting me in this moment. I need to keep going. And then the rest of the time I was like 6 minutes out. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for a break. Especially when you've spent 6 hours sitting in the chair. There were thankfully 5, 7, 15-minute breaks in there. I could get up and walk around and talk to you and do things. So I wasn't stuck in the chair the whole day, but my shoulders are a bit on the sore side. The shower helped with that. So if I can finish it tomorrow, I can title this video, Write a Novella in a Weekend, which is almost true because I did start working on it yesterday. So, P.S. I also did learn that this Heart Breathing's writing retreat, you're supposed to dip in and out. You're not supposed to do the entire day. And it runs from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I'm fairly certain it is actually set up to account for different time zones. I mean, I did the last 3 sessions, and maybe I need to do 2. It is Sunday morning. I finished the novella, well, the first draft. I will let that sit for a week, and then I think once I have done doing a read-through of book 4, I will go back and do a read-through of this one. I found the first few chapters were beautifully polished, because back in my day, we did 3 chapters and a synopsis and a cover letter and sent it off to agents, publishers, for whoever. And they were usually the first 3 chapters for contests as well. After that, writing was a little less polished, shall we say. So I've written probably about 1,000 new words total because I had a new beginning scene and a new end scene. But other than that, it's all edited down from that old manuscript and rewritten slightly. I spent 2.5 hours this morning on writing. I joined another of the writing sprints that Heart Breathing's did. Found I totally ignored the clock. So I think having the intention to sit down and do the writing sprint or the writing retreat as this was good. That got butt into chair and got it done. But I was already pretty passionate about this story already. And I was kind of curious as to how far I pushed it. Now, my schedule has already gone out the window this week already. So I didn't feel too bad about throwing more things out of the schedule in order to get this done. So it's not something I can do on a regular basis. My wrist hurts and my shoulders hurt and my ribs hurt from all the poor posture that I have when I'm on the computer. And this time I didn't handwrite either. I typed straight into the computer all the new text just to get it done. I thought, given that the original manuscript, I typed it straight into the computer, I would do the same, type the new text straight into the computer as well, just in case it engaged that same part of the brain of how I write when I'm typing straight into the computer as opposed to handwriting. So there wouldn't be too much of a shift in style between the two. I mean, it's 26 years since I wrote the old manuscript. So there are a lot of stylistic changes that I made on the fly. I mean, it was 6 hours yesterday. I don't know how long I spent on Friday with it. Probably at least 2 to 3 hours on Friday. And Thursday I was just throwing it together, like pulling what I needed from the old manuscript, not really doing anything with it, so that doesn't really count, does it? But I have broken it down into 7 installments. I expect the installments to get shorter rather than longer, and worked out really well. For all my struggle with the hero's motivation for this, his deep inner conflict, it just popped out during one of those writing sessions, and I'm like, yeah, this is good. Have I done it justice? Possibly not, but perhaps in the next go through I can definitely want to like put a couple more things in that just like lead up to it. I already have one thing in there that's a hint, but other things as well I think need to go in there to make it clear his reluctance. There's no B. And I don't know that I really resolved her issues, so there might need to be another conversation now that I'm thinking about it. She hears his story, but he hasn't really heard hers, so I don't know how that would work. Maybe his kisses are just good enough. Who knows? Anyway, so it is dark and grey. It just poured down a couple of minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. Because I was going to sit down and talk to you, and instead I filmed some rain. Because my house has a tin aluminum roof, and it gets noisy when it rains here. So yes, is this really writing a novella in a weekend? No. I started Friday, I finished this morning, Sunday. Maybe 90% of it is old manuscript that I've just spent all that time editing and cutting down and weaving in a little more emotion and internal reactions and that kind of thing, because I leaned really heavily on the adverbs 25 years ago. I'm a little bit worried about my published work now, actually, because that was not that much later. And yeah, I'm actually happy with it. It's a story I really remember that I enjoyed doing all the research for the ballet, and maybe still more to cut on that and the read-through. Doesn't need to be quite that descriptive, I think, but on the whole, love how it ended up. Love the interaction of these two characters with one of my dread more. I shall say no more than that. And I'm going to release it before book 4. That has changed my publishing schedule for the year, and now I need to go figure that out. Next time, I think we'll be into round 2 edits of book 2, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. I hope you had fun with this. Watching this, because it's a little more upbeat than I am, a little more crazy. I actually drew on my Instagram wardrobe for when I did lots of reels last year, which was also for writing. Well, actually the last 2 years maybe. Anyway, I have a little wardrobe here where I throw things on so I can batch film reels, and came in handy today. Thanks for watching. If you liked this, please let me know. And if you got this far into the video, because we're now at the end, you can put a paintbrush emoji. Well, this is not a paintbrush, but paintbrush emoji or an actual microphone to let me know that you made it this far, because it'd be interesting to see that. And yes, you can read the more Drago Chronicles over at projectstarfish.substack.com. And you can subscribe here to see me continue working on this last book in the trilogy, which is book 4. And so we will see you next week. Bye. Not me reaching for my art supplies for props.